Well, welcome everybody. How are you doing on this here Prosperity Monday? Well, I hope it's prosperous for you. But thank you for being here as I get everything done. And that's a good feeling. So, uh, hope you had a good weekend. I did. Got a lot of hard work in. It was felt good. Saturday was beautiful. But anyway, let me just speak favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. That is the way we like to hang here, and it's fun. We have fun. What's up, chat room? Good to see everybody. Thank you all. You're just beautiful people. Shirley and Purgatory Traveler. Deborah Sloan, how are you, dear? Loretta, hello. Jackie, nothing missing, nothing broken. Mary Wins, much love to you, darling. Lost in Space, what's up? I saw Gilbert in here and Rick and Morgan, good to see you. Paul Joe, how up? Marco Polo, I found you. DC, what's up? I love that. This group's got a great sense of humor. So, man, could there be any more craziness? Mm-mm-mm-mm. Nuts. Man, that's all I got to say. We are a species. Man can no longer solve his own problems, problems that man made, problems that man created. And we find ourselves in a time where there is no brilliancy. There is only totalitarianism, authoritism, tyranny. And as it continues, as I've told you before, technology is a weapon. The internet is not man's friend, it's an enslaver. That's what it was designed to do, and that's exactly what it's doing. It's rewriting history. It's waiting for my generation to be gone. Because once we're gone, we're actually the last authentics. What I mean by that, we were the last generation on Earth that was not influenced by the technology because we're the ones that actually channeled it in. Um, and in order for AI to complete its agenda, it must get rid of us. We are the virus, the antivirus to AI. Because, and especially those hippies, raise your hand if you were a hippie, wear that a badge of honor. Got my ass kicked because of my long hair, but that was okay. I really didn't care. But anyway, because we're the generations that really, we're the unknown factor. We're the generation that our culture, our species has always been addicted to some sort of pain relief. Self-medication, self-intoxication is known for our species. Why? Because this is hell. Not in the physical aspect of hell, but in its definition. This is not a friendly place. Anyway, we're the ones that dropped the acid, took the trips, and we defied all the authorities. We defied science. We defied religion. We defied medical science. We said, fuck you. And this is my shirt, by the way. Let everyone see it here. Your problem is your head's up your ass. So that's the theme today, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who literally walk with their heads up their ass. Look at any politician and you'll see that perfectly exemplified. And if you don't see that, then you need to break the spell. You got to see what it's really there. You know what I mean? And anyway, we're the ones that defied all that. And they're like, well, what do you do with it now? And it's not that we haven't seen resurgence of it. Silicon Valley would not be where it is if it wasn't for the trend of microdosing. It's a fact. Much of the technology that we see today was from what would be considered illicit at the time. Technology itself and visual communications would not be here unless there was pornography. Humans like to film other humans having sex. We fascinate on it. There are multiple platforms where that's all that people do. They masturbate basically all day long and make a living at it. And coming out of the film and video industry, the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't pornography, we wouldn't have the mediums that we use today. It's just a fact. But moving right on along, don't tell me this technology is all good, but we're also the generation that was so naive. We really thought that love could really change the world. We believed in it. We died for that. But sadly, it appears that that was nothing more than a con. Because if it was, in fact, a foundational aspect of a generation, then you would see the remnants of it manifesting today, and you don't. You see the antithesis of it, the exact opposite. And today we are a species that, and a culture that we're addicted to fear porn more than adult pornography, which, you know, pornography is always one of those words. But pornography has been with us in our culture. You know, the strange thing is about the front turn of the century when the Romans were out, revolutionizing the Western world with new technology. Think about it. And some of that technology we still don't understand. We can't quite figure out how they built the aquifers. How the hell did they go and do that? And the roads, the Romans were masters at road building. Quite fascinating. And so when you speak about these roads, well, part of the first century, there was what we would call today the Middle East uprising. You had brother fighting against brother, there were no uh, Muslims. The religion hadn't been made yet. But they were fighting amongst themselves. You had the Palestinian, you had this and that. And the Romans just said, screw this. It was screwing up, the trade, commerce. And these renegades, so Rome had a huge occupation there. And then Jerusalem was the intersection of the Silk Road where it met the Western world. Very happening place, actually. Um, you know, be like modern day Budapest and others, these, phenomenal commerces, cosmopolitan in its nature. And the interesting thing about these roads was that humans are entrepreneurs. You see an opportunity, remember I attended a conference where Bill Gates was the main speaker. And never forget, I wrote it down back then. He said, if you can identify a need that transcends all cultures, all demographics, you'll be rich beyond your dreams. And you think about back there, you had these roads where primarily a lot of soldier, a lot of military. And if you ever see the military, there's a lot of money because it's civilians that basically, the Apostle Paul, the story that's not told about him is that his family, they were the number one supplier, manufacturer to the Roman legions for tents, blankets. They made a shitload of money. But anyway, they would set up, little cantinas. If you're traveling the road from Rome to Jerusalem, that's a hard ass journey. But they did it. And so along the way, you would have the eateries. You would actually have the Motel 6, Bobadale, they kept the light on. And the interesting thing is that there was a form of visual communications. We would call it graffiti today, but you would find where you could get laid. Nothing better than having sex as you've been on the road all day. Well, you would find this graffiti and, so porn was doing quite well. So anyway, it all comes back to where they have to get rid of us. I mean, once we're gone, they can rewrite history. The millennials, sorry guys, you know, you were the first true generation in that, and it gets worse. So, someone wrote me and said, "Love the way you explain and picture history to be." But that's true. It is absolutely true. And it is true, without the porn industry, we wouldn't have the technology and the medium we have today. And so, getting back to that, the other thing that we are quite addicted to, again, as I said, was fear. Fear is actually, in one way, a very good thing. It keeps us alive. Fear is that thing that um, it's both, the door swings both ways. It may keep us alert, which it does, particularly when we were more nomadic in nature. Fear, in many ways, keeps us safe, but in the other ways, it can be manipulated. And much as a con artist is, those who push the fear porn are the whores of this fear god. There's channels dedicated to nothing but fear. All they want to do, scare the shit out of people. And people like having the shit scared out of them. We have squirrels that love to come up here, and we have a air horn. And the other day, Lynn literally scared the piss out of one of the squirrels. But it's true. We're addicted to it. We like to be afraid. We like things that feed into that, because it dumps the dopamines into us. We get, it's that, oh yeah, uh-huh. Now there's the extremes of fear. Fear can kill you. Fear can absolutely cripple you mentally, spiritually. Um, but nevertheless, and I I got to tell you, I over the weekend, and it's proliferating everywhere. Now you got the mainstream, lamestream media pushing this agenda. And regrettably, most of the people in charge in governments, they got their head up their ass. That's how they walk. That's how they think. You know, you ever heard the expression ass backwards? Well, it means your head's up your ass, because everything you're seeing is ass backwards. And unfortunately, most the government, personnel in there, so-called leaders, are just walking heads up their asses. That's all they are. They have no common sense. That's gone. But anyway, getting back to this simple eclipse. I mean, you look over on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. It's like everybody's at a freaking orgy. I mean, you got all seven deadly sins. You got the gluttony. You've got it all, because that's what fear is. And now people are getting all wrapped and all lathered. And man, there's this whole thing going on. And people are getting afraid, and they're saying to stock up. And, all hell is going to be coming loose. Dogs and cats are going to be having sex with each other. It's the fucking end of the world. It's just an eclipse. Happen all the time. You use calculus, and you can predict it. You can predict where, how long. You can predict it. Now we have programs can predict it way into the future. Is that an omen? Is that God telling you better watch out? Judgment's coming. Gonna kick your ass. Yeah, the earth is going to open up. I might even see a comet. Oh, shit. Seriously, And the never-ending bullshit continues. And I'm telling these other channels, stop the fear porn. That's all you're doing is producing pornography. May not deal with the flesh, but you're dealing with the spirit, the mind. What the hell's wrong with you? Well, you never know, Wayne. This is a sign, omen. So what if it is? If you do some simple research, you will find that exact fucking story told over and over and over and over again. You can go back to whenever the hell we came onto the scene, because we don't know when we did. We have no memory of it. But it's exactly what they did 5,000 years ago. Look at it. We're supposed to be modern. We're supposed to be intellectuals, educated. We're just like the monkeys. You know? I mean, enough is enough. That's my commentary because I think it's just nonsense, folks. It's just nonsense. And I mean, it's getting now, where you have, who the hell are these people? Are they that goddamn ignorant? Well, you need to stock up some food, and you might want to say that, some gas, and it's an eclipse. Happens again all the time. But nip. Hey, Gaia. What's up, girl? Good to see you. So anyway, it's just nuts. And then you have to question yourself, well, is there really any hope for mankind? I have to say, watch this series on Netflix, and it was the three body problem, I think. And the whole show is centered around, remember I think it was 1977, Ohio State University or University of Ohio State, I think it was. They picked up the wow signal. It's the only signal, if you research this, that gave evidence of actual intellectual life. So what they did is that they picked up that as the foundation of the story. And I like how they really spun this because it gave the Chinese perspective of this. Long story short, the message came back that this was a civilization approximately 4 light years from Earth. And they were coming. They're coming was the signal. And as the story develops, because of one Chinese physicist, astrophysicist, she defied them and she sent a signal back to theirs. And if the dilation of time and everything else gets into that, but she lived to hear the response. And so now the world or the elite realize that they're coming. Well, in the interim, while they're coming, they're talking to, now it's become God. The Lord is coming back. This is the fulfillment of the Abrahamic prophecy. The Lord is returning. And here's the problem. So one individual who thought, he was somehow the one to speak to God, said that he was complaining about the world politics, and the message came back from the ones coming, said, well, what do you mean? Talking on this conflict. Because they're promising to bring technology to save humanity out of our problems. And he spoke back to him and said, well, we lie. We as a species, every human lies. They don't have to be taught to lie. It's second nature to all of us. We're all liars. If you can't admit that, well, may I suggest you do a little inner working on that? We're all liars. Well, when that species found out, they said, and the word came back, you are not compatible for us. We will never live with you. Now, their planet is gone. Apparently, something went haywire with their sun, so they're coming. And now that they know that humans can't be trusted, they said in their message, we must be exterminated. They said we're ants. And I thought to myself, last week we studied the Babylonian tumult, and that's exactly what the Elohim, Yahweh, said about all Gentiles. You're animals. You're less than that. And so now the species coming, they're coming to kick our ass. And we only have less than 400 years before they arrive here. Anyway, get a chance, check it out. um, but very interesting. You have to admit, it's like, okay. So anyway, someone had wrote earlier about sound, the difference between acoustic and electric, and I was thinking to myself, isn't it interesting? We went through mono, stereo, quadraphonic, surround sound, THX sound, digital sound, and each time we progressed into these higher frequencies, we found that it did more and more to us. Um, but anyway, okay, so Ross says, we're already here, and boy, we are pissed. That's exactly it. Oh, this thing, I will have to say the one thing about these other streaming platforms is that I love creativity. And these are outlets for, and people can get funding for that. You can shoot if you write a good teleplay or script. Most likely it could be turned into a series because there's more eyeballs looking at it. And I just marvel at some of the, it's like they're almost listening to us. It would seem that way. And there's an exchange of thought taking place because we talked about this for years, and now you're seeing the proliferation of so many talented men and women. Just my hat's off to them. I love the creative industries. It was fabulous. There was a time when I had my own um, marketing firm. So, yeah. Anyway, um, what's happening, chat room? Stick to the vinyl because it's vibration. It's true, Toby. I can't disagree with you. I mean, yeah, my wife and I were talking about the 8-track tapes. Remember when it used to get caught up in the heads, and zoop in the thing, and you're trying to pull it out so you don't screw it up? Yeah. I mean, remember that? Because the whole thing about 8 tracks is that, it was 4 tracks that had 2-track recordings on it. Anyway, so I digress. John, good to see you. S. Lee. See, there's so much going on in this chat room. I love it. So, that's really what I wanted to say today. It's like, stop the nonsense. Um, because this is just crazy. I mean, granted, I read and I'm thinking, what? So someone has taken the time I guess from where the pathway for totality comes in from Mexico and then it, goes across the United States. And so now they're making all these correlations of different names for Nineveh. And you find all these towns, Ark, Arkansas, and all this crazy crap. And of course, there's one guy particularly on YouTube. I won't give out his name, but he's anyway. It's always the hype, man. It's like this is God's judgment. It's time for the United States to turn back to God. You know, I just got to say, which God? We had some people, and I was really surprised. I guess they're getting back to came door to door, on Saturday to invite us to church because it's Resurrection Sunday. And I loved it. There were four of them, two couples, our age, you know, inviting us, and and they were going to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with us. And I said, "Well, I appreciate it." I said, "Thank you for coming by, but we don't believe in that God." Priceless. Well, I could do a MasterCard commercial in that one. You don't believe in God. I said, they said, "You don't believe in God?" I said, "I didn't say that. I said, I don't believe in your God." And the one gentleman said, "May I ask, then which God do you believe?" I said, "Well, I don't really believe in the concept of God." I said, "Because God is limiting within its structure. It's a noun. It is to identify a first person." And I said, "Quite frankly, I said, there's something greater than a God." And I said, "There's too many of them in this world." I said, "We as humans, we create our own gods all the time." I said, "And yours is no different than a person growing up in Bombay, India, and their gods." And then this one woman, she said, "But we have the Bible. This is God's word." That's what she said. And I said, "I don't mean to argue with that, but actually that's not true." And they're all for him and just looking. I thought they were going to turn away and walk out, like run and scream. I said, "Your Bible," I said, "I'm gathering it had to be some version of what was the King James." I said, "Is actually a fraud Bible." And they're both, and I said, "Before you get upset, hear me out." I said, "That Bible was taken from the original Bible, the Latin Vulgate, which had 72, 73 something books into it." I said, "But they thinned it down to 66." And I said, "That is the true Bible." Guy said, "Well, I hadn't thought about that." And I said, "Well, it gets even a little stranger." And I said, "The reason why I don't believe in the God as a Christian God," I said, "you can't tell me where it came from." I said, "You'll make claim that it is the Hebrew God, but that's not true either." I said, "Because at the beginning of that," and I said, "look at your first Genesis 1:1. I said, it says, in the beginning was God." I said, "And then God said, let there be light." I said, "So that directly implies and means that this God came from darkness." And I said, "You don't understand Hebrew." I said, "Because the God that's spoken of in the first part of Genesis 1 was really translated more to El, supreme." I said, "But the God who comes in the second chapter of Genesis is not the El. It comes in as the Elohim." Anyway, the guy steps in and he says, "Well, thank you very much." He says, "But we have to go." And oddly enough, his wife, I guess it's his wife, she said, "I'd like to hear more." And of course, her husband said, "We heard enough." And so I wished him well. And yeah, so, and El Gapo, you're right. In fact, I brought that up in the conversation that the patriarch of the Abrahamic religions was actually Sumerian. And I said the problem with that is that validates that there was a culture that predated even the first Hebrew. I said because the first Hebrew was a small group. Abraham would have been the first Hebrew, and then when they went to exile in Egypt, they came back as the children of Israel. When they went into captivity in Babylon, they came back as the Jews. I said, but getting back to this whole thing with Sumer, I said, the Sumerian culture, and I said, we now have over 200,000 tablets of their culture, which was not discovered until 1947. Actually, it was discovered in about late 1890, thereabout. But anyway, I looked at him and I said, there was no God known as a Hebrew God. It was Enki and Enlil and their mother. It was fun. That's all I got to say. It was fun, and but the guy's wife, she really wanted. She wanted. I mean, I know what happened. Broke the spell over her. She just saw enough light that she'll be searching. I have no doubt. And what her husband said was really, I thought, how interesting. No, we've heard enough. Can't listen to this shit. And I'm sure now it's going to go all the way around that this house doesn't believe in the Christian God. And I corrected the guy. I said, I never said I didn't believe in a God. They would have never handled it if I said, I'm really the only God I truly believe in. Everything is basically a thought. I've not seen any evidence of any God of any religion. The only evidence I've seen is the only creator I know, which is me. And I see a lot of other gods. Every one of you are God. You create. It's what we do. We're good at it. Why? I think that's what we do all the time. But that's just me. So, said booty eater. Eater did. I love the handle. We shall remain ignorant, dear. It's easier that way. Oh, shucks. Ain't it the truth? Um, and I'm not being disrespectful on that. Unlike with the White House, talk about tone deaf. What the hell's wrong with you people? Your head's up your ass is what the problem is. I mean, you want to piss off like, 70% of the voting population in the United States. You insult their God. Yeah, that'll endear you to them. Yeah. What the hell were you thinking? Ay, ay, ay. That's what I mean, folks. It's a crazy out there. Denounce the Hebrew God. I don't like that dude. Got nothing to do with that Hebrew God. Oh, you know what I did tell them as well, and they really did not respond well to this because Easter is paganism. But I said, I said, actually, I said we have no right as Goyim, Gentiles, to claim anything in that Old Testament. It was not written for us. But boy, we sure have brought it over and said, well, this is God speaking to us Gentiles. Like hell, just the opposite. And they didn't dig that at all either. I said, it's blasphemy. And I said, that's not my word, that's his. No Gentiles is supposed to even be speaking the words of the Old Testament God. No. If you had lived in the time of the tribe, the tribes of Judea, wasn't Israel yet, but they'd have stoned your ass or cut you open. then let the bird and the fowl feed off of you. Yeah. If you were lucky, they may have, beheaded you, but you didn't speak what their God spoke. So, anyway, to know thyself from this life, from the last to the next. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. But anyway, I mean, we were just going badass crazy. So I did find something that I thought was interesting, and I thought I would share this as well. And it's again, you look at this thing. So this is a white paper, two solar eclipses, August 21st, 2017, and April 8th, next Monday, 2024. And I really like this guy. The author of this is Theodore Turner. And he goes on the story of two eclipses. Now, I have heard to ad nauseum more of the Christian belief that this is 7 years. This shows that this is God. That's a goddamn lie. Ain't 7 years. But anyway, I digress. So on August 21st, 2017, many Americans witnessed their first total solar eclipse. While it is a rare event, it was revealed at that time that a second total solar eclipse would cross the path of the first one on April 8th, 2024, some 7 years later. Now, this is where things get blown out. Actually, it's 6 years, 7 months, and 18 days to be more precise. I mean, if you're going to build your story around your fear porn and telling it that this is your God and how this God's a badass and what have you, you ought to stop lying. First thing, because it ain't true. But I digress. Several speculative theories have arisen about these eclipses, often based on false claims regarding the nature, timing, and prophetic significance of these eclipses. The purpose of this paper is to delve into the theories, address the errors that are being promoted, and reveal the true details and their prophetic significance. And again, if prophecy is real, then our life means nothing. Unless you're saying fate is not written and that a prophet can be wrong. Because if prophecy is true, then we're just merely actors playing out a role to a script. And I don't like that idea. It somehow diminishes us as a species. Anyway, I digress. To do this, we will first look at two significant ancient solar eclipses and their possible relations to biblical events. The eclipse that occurred over the capital of the Assyrian Empire in the 8th century BC, and then a solar eclipse over Egypt connected to the Israeli Exodus some 8 centuries earlier. We will also examine the earlier American eclipses before we address the 17 and 24. And it's quite interesting that when you read his point, now he's trying to tie biblical prophecy into this, and I tell you, I'd love to have a debate with someone who actually believes in prophecy. Explain to me how prophecy can exist, number one, from a person to give a prophecy of a future that that person will never be a part of. Furthermore, it could be said and argued that all prophecy is basically self-fulfilling. Because once you speak it as a prophecy from God, then that reigns supreme, and then it is automatically assumed and settled in vast majority of people who hear that in their consciousness that this is going to happen. I may not be alive, but it's going to happen. How many people have gone to their deaths with that very thought? So the solar and the lunar eclipse are part of the ancient record that are often used in dating events. One to which we are presently being directed is the Bur-Sagel eclipse, also known as the Assyrian eclipse. This is, when I'm reading this, I'm going, I'm learning something here. This is an eclipse that would have been visible from the ancient city of Nineveh. Now, background on this one, someone said that, I forget, is it 11 different cities in the 10 or so states, I guess, that the eclipse will be seen from, are all having the towns Nineveh in this eclipse path. I mean, if you're going to believe that, let's go to Vegas. At least I can tell you the odds, what they really are. All right. Regarding the biblical significance of this eclipse, Wikipedia, of course, Wikipedia is an authentic, and is all-knowing and always correct. Not necessarily, but people don't think that anymore. Wikipedia gives this comment. The Bur-Sagel eclipse occurred over the Assyrian capital city of Nineveh in the middle of the region of Jeroboam II, who ruled Israel from 786 to 746 BC. According to 2 Kings 14:25, the prophet Jonah lived and prophesied in Jeroboam's reign. The biblical scholar Donald Wiseman has speculated. Now, you see, he speculated. It's just a thought. It's an idea. But no, now we got accepted as fact. But anyway, we continue. That the eclipse took place around when Jonah arrived in Nineveh and urged the people to repent, otherwise the city would be destroyed. So if you got an eclipse coming to your city, and if you got sin abounding in your city, then God has got a message for you. That would explain the dramatic repentance of the people of Nineveh as described in the book of Jonah. So let's just stop right here. Most of these people, I would say, were agrarian, tradesmen. I don't know how well educated they were. I have no way to base that on. But I do know this, that we have seen throughout human history that the ancient cultures did not understand cosmology, astronomy. Now, the seers, the priests, the priestesses of most religions of that day had some understanding, if they included the celestials, which most did. But again, the vast majority would be freaking out. I wonder how many went blind. That would be the other thing. Because if you're looking up at it, we know what happens. You've just burned your cornea and your retina out. So that would be a validation proving that this was God's warning. People came out blind. They didn't listen. But anyway, you got people now looking at this, all fear-based, so what are they going to do? They'll be bowing down to that which they don't understand. And it just so happened that, according to this history, that the ancient city of Nineveh was destroyed. This would explain the dramatic repentance as described. Ancient cultures, including Assyria, viewed eclipses as omens of imminent destruction, and the empire was in chaos at the time, struggling with revolts, famines, and 2 separate outbreaks of plague. Well, you can almost literally take that scenario and put it in the 21st century today. Exactly. This eclipse is also mentioned by the prophet Amos. Now, here's the thing. Unless you've been a Bible student and you've studied the major and the minor prophets, this ain't going to mean shit to you. You don't know who Amos was. You don't know what the political environment was. You didn't know what was happening in Israel. But they're going to pick this out because when Amos was a minor prophet, the end of Israel as a nation, the nation of God, was coming to an end. God had pronounced judgment. Anyway, I digress. Amos was also preaching during the reign of Jeroboam II and refers to the eclipse in Amos 5:8 and 8:5 and 9. In these passages, Amos uses the eclipse as a prophecy of doom, but also exhorts Judeans to repentance. Now, again, you can't lose this. This is not a message for Gentiles. This Judeans, Jews. Anyway, says one problem with this suggestion is that dating of the reign of Jeroboam II according to the biblical chronology, and again, the Bible is not historically correct. It is not a history book. It's not. His reign would have been from 823 to 782 BCE. The chronology in Wikipedia is based on the chronology of Edwin Thiel, who sees many passages of Scripture as chronologically errors or glosses filled with holes like Swiss cheese. For instance, he rejected the idea that Hosea and Hezekiah were contemporaries. Now, if you again haven't studied the Old Testament, you don't have a freaking clue who Hosea and Hezekiah is. Were contemporaries, as plainly stated in 2 Kings 18. He also creates an imagined number of co-regencies during the reigns of the kings of Judah, which are not stated in the Bible. This allows him to manipulate the reigns of the kings of Judah and Israel, shortening the period of the kings of Judah by 45 years. Fucking with time. No one knows any of this. It's just, I sit here and I go, I was one of these people. I know who these prophets are. I know what the whole story is behind them. I bought it. Well, that was because God was speaking to me. I was grafted to the vine, according to the Apostle Paul. Therefore, I have the rights as Abraham. Yeah. Sure. That's totally acceptable. So he goes on to say, so if we are to date the relationship, the Assyrian eclipse, to Jonah's preaching, this eclipse would have had occurred more than 45 years after Jonah warned Nineveh of their coming judgment. Well, hell, Steiger, now you ruined the whole story. It was much more intriguing. An eclipse happens. The people fall on their faces and wrath. Well, wait a minute. Why did the city? I guess they didn't buy the story, did they? And then you get the whole thing with Jonah. Yay. Okay. While Jonah warned of this judgment as occurring in 40 days, it is possible that the eclipse 40 years later marks the end of their probation. And you can just add anything you want to this. You can add to it. Why would I doubt that if you wanted to add to it that it'd be any different from what someone else wrote? Some tried to connect the sign of Jonah, the 3 days and 3 nights, and the destruction of Jerusalem to the Assyrian eclipse of 763 BC, in that Jerusalem is destroyed 40 years after the death of Jesus. There wasn't no Jesus. That's the whole problem. If this was intellectually correct, this guy would have come in and put what the real Jewish name was, because they certainly hell don't have a problem going in here and using these Old Testament prophets. Hosea, Hezekiah. I mean, like, that's a real name. Hey, Hezekiah, what you doing? I mean, yeah, what? But no. We got to keep that, because these were kings and prophets. You don't mess with that. No, but the supposed Son of God, you can just screw with his name anything you want to, huh? Anyway, I digress. I'm just showing you. At the present time, we see this Assyrian eclipse as connected to the eclipse of 2024, in that it is purported that the eclipse will be seen in 7 towns in the United States and 1 in Canada named Nineveh. Just recently, USA Today. I mean, I've read these stories just recently, again, as of yesterday. Says Amos reference is interesting in that he prophesied 2 years prior to the earthquake. This earthquake is also mentioned in Zechariah as having occurred in the reign of Hezekiah, Uzziah, who reigned for 52 years from 810 to 758. Like, we really know how to relate to that. But I do find it interesting that how they love to include the book of Zechariah, because the book of Zechariah proves, again, that the Sumerian culture did in fact exist. Way before any Hebrew or any Hebrew God or any kind of Judea or any of that. The problem is when you get to these ancient landmarks, so where you're saying God proportioned this out, there's no way to back that up. But I digress. But Zechariah proves that the Sumerian culture existed, and there is the conundrum right within this passage. Because how could you have Enki and Eniel as supreme? No, wait a minute. Their father Anu was. Huh. So Abram, before he was named Abraham, came from Ur of the Chaldees. Okay, we'll continue on this. We'll have fun going back, because I'll keep going on to this. I mean, he really does an excellent job in trying to show that you can bring all these prophecies, all of these so-called warnings of doom, destruction, gloom. Let's say it did happen. So this is how a God gets its rocks off? Killing people? Well, I gave you a chance now. I warned you. Now, if you had just prayed to me long enough and begged me long enough, I might have spared you. But you didn't. So you're going to get your ass kicked. Sign God. Why would you want to worship a God like that to begin with? If a God's going to do that to us, I say it's time we fuck him up. It's time we fight back. I ain't going to be moved by some celestial event that has happened probably more times than I've actually been alive. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, so that's just my opinion. It's nuts. Let's enjoy the event. It's an opportunity to see that there are stars during the day. It's an opportunity, if you're going to be in the path, and wear protection your eyes and what have you. And if you don't even have to look at the sun, but look away into the sky, and you're going to see stars, planets that we can't see during the day. I think it's phenomenal. If you happen to believe of the natural elements of the earth, of the elementals, and of the spirits, it's a wonderful time to have this connection. It's two worlds blending together. That's phenomenal. Whether it's just purely scientific, academic, or spiritual. All three. What a phenomenon. To be a human and to actually be able to witness this event is a rare thing indeed. But the end of the world, I doubt is going to happen. The event will be over for most in less than 120 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer in some of the direct paths of totality. But still, it's fascinating. But I certainly don't think that, listen, the United States has got problems because we did this to ourselves. We're a nation divided. Now, you can say that this eclipse divides the country. We were that way before the eclipse. Eclipse isn't showing us anything that we don't already know individually. Now, can we unify? I don't know. If I heard a politician actually talk about love, reconciliation, compromise, forgiveness, those are not attributes of a religion. Those are attributes of a God, which means we all are God, goddesses. We can put forth love. We could use this as an opportunity of welcoming in and ushering in maybe a new era of consciousness, realizing that we've been divided up to this point and maybe we can just settle down. Maybe we can get off of our high horses and just step down and say, listen, I could be wrong. How about if I just say I apologize? You're no better than I am. I told one person, I actually called in and I said, you people are talking about all this division, this race and everything else. And I said, you say you're a Christian station. I said, so tell me, what color is my soul? We thank you for your call. Click. So all of you out there trying to start these religious wars, what color is our soul? What color is my thoughts? Is my soul belonging to a political ideology? No. Only gods and goddesses can produce love. It doesn't come from a god. There is no God capable of that. It comes from the individual, and then the individual joins others, and then it becomes a collective. That's the only way we're going to come out of this. Because we're so divided now. People doing things that are unhuman, inhuman. No discretion. No visible signs that they're responsible. But they're bigoted, biased, prejudiced. They lie, they cheat, they murder, they steal. These are the leaders. What are you? You're soulless. You don't have a soul. But the rest of us, we can defy these assholes. We can demand that the local news start carrying stories of hope, stories that doesn't divide race, that we're all human. Our souls have no color. No, that isn't much fun. You know the thing about love? It doesn't cost money. We've got a Biden administration that has bankrupted our country. Joe Biden has divided the country up. I hate to say it. He had an opportunity, blew it. It's sad. But we can reverse that. We don't need to be guided by that. We can look at each other and go, you know what? You may have a different opinion than me, but that's cool. I love you all the more for it. but this is how we work together. It's the same thing in a marriage, a relationship. There's constantly compromise, but the compromise is done willingly. It's more important to see the other person happy, fulfilled. And by doing that, we fulfill our own lives. Wow. All right. Boy, I went over. So, not by much. So, as Mary Wynns always states, and I love that, darling, is that she always says that love won. Well, that's how we do it. If we could bottle the essence of the spirit of this group and just pass it around the world, yeah, we'd find out it's all right to have a difference of opinion. It's okay. If you made a mistake, that's all right too. That's cool. But one person is no better than the other. No. All right, folks. I am going to try to be on tomorrow. We have elections here, but looks like I may be in the afternoon, which will be fantastic because I know with Miss Trina, it's like, I think 10 o'clock in the morning. And I think with Jenny, it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't mess with this thing called daylight savings time. What the hell were we thinking on that? All right, folks, sending love out to you all. Thank you for listening to this. Maybe we can just stop all this nonsense. The rest of you YouTube channels that constantly put this stuff out, stop it. Talk about love. Talk about maybe reconciliation, that this could really usher in an age of Aquarius. I think that's a hell of a lot better than what I'm hearing now. Just saying. Hey, Lost in Space, thank you. Rick, much love to you. Stephen, right back at you. Voiceover. I'm telling you, if we could bottle this up. God, imagine in the karmatic universal bank. You pass over the other side, you're going to be like, Richie Rich. Seriously. Or who's the MacDuck, You're going to look at this thing and go, this is all for me? Then you invite everyone over to the party. All right, folks. Much love, everybody. See you tomorrow, hopefully, because I really enjoy being with the ladies, and I know y'all do too. So, all right. Until we